Good morning, everyone. So today we're going to be getting into the foot a little bit, working out of the chair largely. We're going to get some shoulder mobility, hip mobility, and then we're going to work on balance, stability, mobility of the foot, really building up that foot to hip relationship, finishing with a little bit of specific ligament activation to build stability in the ankle and the foot. And glute activation in order to build that relationship. So let's get started. So we're going to start in the standing position, getting into our crocodile breath first. Make a nice big C shapes with the hands below the ribs, above the hip bones, and that nice meaty section of the abdominal wall. Thumbs in the back, index fingers wrapped around the front. We're going to press in, and I want to use the hands to assess for the symmetry of that expansion of the abdominal wall. Noticing, does it move evenly to the right side, to the left side? Can you get movement fairly evenly through the front, but more importantly, into the back? Can you feel that back level start to expand as well as out to the sides? So with each inhale, in through the nose, filling up that crocodile breath. Exhales out through the mouth, drawing that navel up and into the spine while we allow those hands to kind of cinch down so that we can create that nice resistance to feel the expansion of that inhale phase of our breath. We'll get a good 5 to 6 breaths just to get some nice activation in the breath, in the core. With each inhale, notice tension moving up into the shoulders. As you exhale, allow that tension to melt. Don't try to push the shoulders down, just let them fall. And with each inhale, see if you can get that abdominal wall to expand a little bit bigger so that your last breath is kind of that maximum inflation of that breath. We'll go ahead and let the arms drop down to the side. We're going to grab our staff. Going to get a nice shoulder width grip on the staff. This is where I want to imagine we're trying to bend or break the staff in two. That bend is happening at the wrist, at the elbow, as well as the shoulder blade. So I want to imagine we're trying to bend it at the wrist, at the elbows. Elbows should be spiraling up towards the ceilings. Shoulder blades are spiraling down, hacking towards our hip pockets. We're going to start with the staff just right in front of the hips. And we're going to come back to our crocodile breath, but we're going to get into some pelvic tilts. As you inhale, allow that breath to move a little bit more into the belly. Pelvis will tilt forward. We'll get a little sway in the low back. Exhale, drawing that navel up and in as we scoop the pelvis. And I really want to imagine we're trying to scoop and reach with the tailbone. If you think of the palm of your hand like your sacrum, that would make your fingers your tailbone. So as you're scooping, you're trying to reach those fingers in front of you towards the wall. On that inhale to exhale, as we get into tilt, notice any tension in that low back. Is it more, do you have any pinch? I want to make sure we're kind of avoiding pinch or pain. So is it more tight, restricted when you inhale, tilting forward, or is it more tight, restricted when you exhale and scoop? I got a little bit more tightness today on my anterior tilt. Although just from getting some reps in, it's starting to open up and I'm getting a little bit more range. I want to come back and remember that we got this nice active bend in our staff. On the next inhale, as we exhale and scoop, we're going to lift the elbows up, bringing them towards the ears, kind of finding how high can you go. Inhale, we're letting them soften forward. Breathing into that belly, pelvis tilts forward, sway in the back. Exhale, scoop as we lightly pull. Now, I want to make sure that we're getting that exhale and scoop together so that the ribs and the core are kind of locked down as we pull those elbows back. What I want to avoid is bringing those elbows back to where the rib starts to jet out and we get this big sway in the back. So I want to maintain good core as we pull those elbows, squeeze into it, inhale forward, exhale, squeeze. Try to keep the spine nice and tall, eyes kind of fixed on the wall in front. I want to watch out for sticking the head out, extending the chin forward as we pull. We'll go ahead and let the arms down. We're going to flip the staff to behind the back. Palms are facing backwards. We're still spiraling, trying to bend the staff. So elbow pits are still spiraling forward. Shoulder blades should be drawing down and back. Chest opening up towards the ceiling. Nice inhale into our crocodile breath. Exhale as we lift elbows up towards the ceiling. Slowly. Inhale, we let them back down. Exhale, lift. Again, kind of squeezing into that end range. Continue to actively try to bend or break the staff away from you as you lift so that you're getting that active spiral to open up the chest as those elbows are lifting up to the ceiling. Once we get about 5 to 10 reps, we're going to keep our hand placement, but we're going to lightly flex at the waist, continuing to do the same thing. Bending at the waist may give you a little bit more range that you can lift those elbows up. Once we get 5 to 10 reps, we're going to flip our palms the other direction. So palms are now facing forward. We're still bending the staff away from the body. So I still want those elbows spiraling, chest open. We'll come back to kind of a tall hips. Inhale, filling up that crocodile breath. Exhale as we lift and squeeze into it. Inhale as we let it drop. And again, as we're lifting, we're continuing to try to bend that staff away from the body. So you feel that active spiral in the arms, opening up that chest as we lift. Once we get to 5 or 10 reps, we can get a little bend in the hips and see if that opens up a little bit more range for the shoulders. Then we can go ahead and set the staff off to the side. And now we're going to do a little bit of standing foot mobility. So going to get a wide stance, say a little bit wider than hips, maybe a little, just shoulders, maybe a little wider than shoulders. Going to bring one foot forward. So we got a split stance, shifting our weight so that 70% of our weight is on our front foot. So I'm shifting to my right foot. I want to make sure the toes, the ball of the foot and the toes are spread as wide as possible. And we're going to lightly lift that front heel off the floor, just high enough that a piece of paper can slide underneath. I don't want it to be pressed all the way to the ceiling, just barely off the floor. So we have that weight moving into that leg. I want to feel that weight moving through the thigh, into the knee, down into that ball of the foot, like we're planting, almost like you're digging that foot down into the floor. But I want to make sure it's a spread foot. We're not just loaded through the ball of the foot, we're also loaded to the ball of the pinky toe side. So I want it evenly grounded across. From here, we're going to do just some knee rotations, letting that knee roll out and then in. And as we're doing this, I want to make sure that we're not losing that grounding nature of the ball of the foot. As the knee rolls out, I don't want that big toe moving off the floor. As the knee rolls in, I don't want the pinky toe coming off the floor. Not just the pinky toe, but the ball of the joint, the knuckle of the joint at the base of the pinky toe, really lower back here. And if you're doing this with good grounding, good shift, as your knee turns out, you should notice your heel turns in, and as your knee turns in, your heel turns out. That flat foot on the floor grounded, that heel rolling back and forth, you're literally wringing out that midfoot like a washcloth, getting it some nice mobility, some lubrication into those joints. And we can go ahead and switch. We'll do the same thing to the other side. So wide stance, step forward, weight shift. So about 70% of our weight is on that foot. Spread the toe and the knuckle of the foot wide, lightly lift that heel. Feel that weight through the thigh, down and through the knee, grounding into the floor. From there, we can start that nice little rotation through the knee, rolling it in and out. And real quick, easy thing to notice is this harder to do on one foot compared to the other? My left foot is stiffer than my right foot. So it's harder, maybe not harder is not the right word, just feels a little more challenging. I don't get as much range of motion, especially rotating out. That feels really tight and stiff in my foot. So those kind of imbalances at the level of the foot are going to manifest pretty significantly into our gait mechanics. So I want to kind of pay attention to those things. All right. We're going to go ahead and pull out our chair. And we're going to start sitting, normal sit in at the front of the chair. So I kind of want to sit towards the front of the chair, not resting on the back. And we're going to come back into our crocodile breath. Nice inhale, filling up that abdominal wall. Hands can be down at the side or softly resting on your knees. But feel that expansion on the inhale. Exhale, feel that navel drawing up and in towards the spine. And as you're getting these breaths back and forth, notice if there is a natural movement of your pelvis. As you inhale, that breath generally is going to move more into the belly. Pelvis may feel like it's tilting forward. But with that exhale, if you're drawing that navel up and in, and you're getting a full expression of that breath, you should notice that pelvis lightly scooping on its own without much effort. Let's go ahead and accentuate that. On the inhale, allow that pelvis to start to tilt. Again, avoid pinch and pain. And then on that exhale, feel that scoop. See if you can get some nice rounding into that low back. Now, as I'm getting the scoop, I'm keeping my shoulders and my head over my hips. So I don't want my shoulders rocking forward and backwards on this. All this movement is happening just at the pelvis. And with each exhale, we're going to try to scoop a little bit more and more. Notice how I'm shrinking on my exhale. My height is getting shorter. And then on that inhale, I'm rising back up. We're going to go ahead and take a break on the hips. And now we're going to get into the shoulders. I think I'll stay in this position. Bringing the arms out wide, spreading the hands, turning the palms up towards the ceiling. Feel that chest kind of open up to the ceiling. I want to feel the shoulder blades rolling down like they're moving into my back hip pockets. And we're going to do a big shrug, spiral the hands so that the thumbs start turning down to the floor and allow those hands to move forward and reach. I want to see if we can feel some stretch in that upper back. This is on our exhale. Inhale, we're shrugging as we spiral the palms back up towards the ceiling, bringing the hands to our sides, and then actively reaching those fingertips down to the floor. Feel the shoulder blades downwardly press. At the same time, I want to feel the sternum lifting up tall. Exhale, shrug as arms come forward, thumbs spiral down, big reach through that upper back. Inhale, opening up the chest. Get tall while you feel your shoulder blades reach down towards the floor. Once we get about 3 to 5 reps on that, I want to add in our pelvic tilts to this. So on our exhale, we're scooping at the same time that we're reaching forward with the thumbs spiraling. Now, really want to feel that across upper back, all the way down into the low back. Inhale, getting tall, feel across the top of the chest. At this point, start to get your eyes fixed on the wall straight out in front of you so that your head stays in the exact same position. And we're largely working on mobilizing the spine around our eyes being fixed on a point off in the distance. Good. All right. So now we're going to change our position in the chair. Instead of sitting straight forward, we're going to move into a split stance. So I have just one hip on my chair. That hip that's there, that leg is forward. The outside leg is moving back. I want to have this back toe tucked underneath. Knee, I'm trying to get underneath the hip, underneath the shoulder, and underneath my head. I want to be all in nice alignment here. And I really want to feel that big toe kind of engaged with the floor a little bit. If you have some big toe discomfort and pain, then I would suggest it might be for right now, go ahead and let that big toe untuck. But ultimately, if you can't get into this position, that would be a signal for scheduling a consultation with me so we can talk about getting that big toe feeling better. From here, we're going to come back into our pelvic tilts, but we're just working one leg. So start with our crocodile breath. Nice inhale into that belly. As we breathe in, that pelvis is going to lightly tilt forward. Again, belly moves forward, sway in the back. As we exhale, navel to spine and scoop. I want to see if we can feel that stretch, load and stretch into the front of the thigh, front of the hip, down into that thigh. Inhale, scoops forward, exhale, tilts forward, exhale, actively scoops. And I want to feel, as we scoop, I want to feel load in that big toe joint. If I'm scooping, that's going to put that downward load. That's going to into the quad. It's going to get that nice stretch. It's also going to give me a little bit of neurological activation into that knee. Once we get about 5 to 10 breaths on that side, we're going to switch sides and do the same thing. Again, make sure that big toe is tucked, knee is under hip, hip is under shoulder, shoulder is underneath the head. Inhale, fill up that belly in the with our crocodile breath, pelvis starts to tilt forward. Exhale, navel to spine as we scoop, feel that scoop load into the ball of the big toe joint. Going back and forth. Things to kind of notice are, do you feel a bit more stretch or tightness in the big toe in your foot? Do you feel more tightness through the front of the thigh? I want to find those imbalances. We are kind of assessing our gait using the chair. So these differences side to side are going to be relevant. So we're now switching back to our first side. Everything we just did is going to stay the same, and we're going to add another layer to it. So big toe is tucked and loaded, knee is still underneath the hip, under shoulder, under head. Inhale, we're still filling up that belly, pelvis is scooping forward. Exhale, navel to spine as that tailbone scoops and reaches. But what we're going to add is a lift through the hand. So the knee that is down, that hand is going to actively reach after we lock in that scoop. So we'll start with a nice Inhale breath, belly moves forward, pelvis tilts forward, big sway in the back. Exhale, draw the navel in, scoop, feel that load, lock in that hip, then actively reaching up those fingers to the ceiling. Inhale, we let it soften as we fill up our belly. Exhale, navel to spine as we reach. Now I want to feel this as length just on the side that I'm reaching with my hand. I want to avoid dropping my opposite shoulder. I don't want to do a side bend on this side. This shoulder should stay relatively at the same height as my other shoulder lifts up. And since I have my big toe dug in with this scoop, I should be getting nice length. It's almost like my hip is reaching down as my shoulders are reaching up. And I want to draw this length into this side body area. Once we get 5 to 10 reps, we're going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. So again, toes tucked, knee under hip, under shoulder, under head. Inhale into that abdominal. Exhale, navel to spine as we scoop. Feel that big toe, then reaching up with that same side hand. And again, I want to notice, how does this side feel different than the other side? My big toe on my left foot, a little tighter. And it just feels a little more challenging to feel grounded through this foot. My leg feels a little shakier. It's a little harder to get length and reach. And these are kind of some of the normal imbalances in my body from 5 knee surgeries on my right knee and only 1 on the left knee. So we're constantly kind of working to get as much balance from side to side, knowing that, there's always also going to be a natural imbalance side to side. So we're moving back to our first side. Everything at the hips and below is still the same. Still breathing in, tilting forward, exhale, scoop. We're going to lock in that back hip, but now we're bringing in rotation. So I'm going to give a couple options for rotation. Some people, and I probably should have mentioned this already, you may find that it's really difficult to sit side stance on a chair and that you feel you're going to fall off. And so you need to grab onto the back of the chair. If that's where you're at, this is okay. I'm fine with this. As long as we're still able to get into these other movements, we're mobilizing the body, and over time, you're going to find that you can take the hand off that chair a little bit more and more. So as we get into the rotation, we're actually going to use that hand to help us. So you can place that hand a little bit more to the back of the chair. We're going to inhale into that crocodile breath. As we exhale, scoop. We're then rotating our shoulders. We're trying to square our shoulders to the back of that chair. So you can bring your opposite hand to the chair and you can lightly grab and squeeze into it. I don't want to pull hard, light squeeze. Inhale, we're releasing, coming back forward, letting that belly open up, pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, scoop, turn towards the chair. If you don't need to hold onto the chair, I want to bring our hands up across our chest. And this way we're keeping our shoulders square. As you exhale and scoop, turn both shoulders as much as you can towards the back of that chair. Now, as we're rotating, I want to make sure that our hips are not rotating with. I don't want that knee turning with my shoulders. If anything, I want to maintain a counter-rotated position. I want to be so locked in that my hips don't move. And I really want to squeeze into that end range to where we feel kind of those obliques contract, get nice and engaged, and then back into our inhale. Once we got 5 to 10 reps on that side, we're going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. So again, if you need to hold on, we're turning into it, slightly pulling. If you're able to balance without holding, bringing hands to the shoulders, inhale into that belly, Exhale, scoop as we turn those shoulders towards the back of the chair. Now, one thing I have not talked about on this is our placement of our eyes in our head. So if you're starting out, I don't want to put too much focus on it. If your head turns, if your eyes are kind of following where you're going, that's okay. Ideally, though, as we get more proficient with this movement, I want to get my eyes fixed on a point on the wall, in the horizon, and I want to keep my eyes there as I lock in the hips and turn those shoulders, feeling that engagement of the glute or the glutes, the obliques. The more we're able to keep those eyes placed on the horizon, we're mobilizing the spine relative to how our gait functions, which is spine is mobile, eyes stay fixed on the horizon. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and set the chair off to the side, and now we're gonna come down to the floor. And we're gonna start in our V sit, nice wide V, actively reaching the knees down to the floor, actively pulling the tops of the feet back towards the shins. Hands are coming down, grounding palms to the floor. We're gonna externally roll those elbow pits out and away so that we feel the shoulder blades pack down and back. I want to avoid being in this rounded shoulder position, so I need those elbow pits actively spiraling out. Shoulder blades are trying to reach down so that we feel little stretch through the front of the chest. We're also trying to get up onto our sits bones as much as possible. If you find that you're leaning back, so difference of sits bones, I want to be on top of that bony prominence of the hip. I don't want to be rounded where my low back is rounded. If you find that that's difficult, just move towards it the best you can. And again, over time, that position should be able to get more mobile and should change. So knees are actively reaching down, tops of the feet actively pulling back towards the shins, grounded palms. We're focusing on those kneecaps, rolling those kneecaps out and away like you're trying to touch the floor to the outside of the body. Inhale as we come to the center. Exhale as we turn those knees like we're trying to touch the inside of the floor. We're exhaling in both directions. Inhale as we come to the center. Try to squeeze into that end range in both directions. Notice how far does the right knee travel in both directions compared to the left knee. And want to make sure that we're pulling those feet back and we're not trying to reach with the toes. I can get a lot more mobility moving my feet without actually moving my knee. The reason I'm focusing on the knee is because I want the long bones to spin within the hip socket. So I'm not interested in this movement at the ankle if it doesn't mean that that femur isn't moving all the way up relative to the hip. So I want to feel this deep in the hip sockets, moving those rotator muscles of the hip. Good. So now we're going to do a little mobility moving from our V-sit into our shin box. So this can be, you can use your hands a little bit. What we're working here is I'm going to spiral both legs in the same direction. So my knees are going to turn towards my left. As I'm doing that, I'm pulling my heels in so that I'm coming into my shin box. And then to come out of it, I'm reaching through those heels, extending, pushing those heels away as I'm spiraling the knees back up. And then I want to do the same thing to the other side. Again, if you need to use hands, one hand behind, maybe the other hand in front until we're ready to place it behind and move into the other direction. It's okay to use hands, especially I want to try to keep the spine upright. I don't want us to get into these weird positions if we don't have good core control with good spinal mobility. So use those hands to help assist. And as we're going back and forth, this is going to get some nice, gentle mobility in the hips. And we're going to start to add in our folds. So as I come into my shin box, my shin is forward. I want to reach both hands lightly, folding into that, towards that shin. Inhale as we come back up. Exhale as we transition into our V-sit. Inhale as we finish the transition to the V-sit. Exhale into our nice fold. We're going extra slow as we're moving side to side so that we can be aware of any areas in which there might be some pinch, some discomfort. Maybe it's a little clunky. What I really want is smooth and pain-free. So I want to notice where it might not be moving so smoothly. And if it's not moving smoothly, the slower we go, the better. The slower we go, we can start to smooth the movement out. When we move quickly, we move fast, that clunkiness can become damaging. It can become injurious. So I want to slow down to make it smooth. Once we make it smooth, then we can start to speed it back up again. As we've gotten a few reps in, we're going to start to open up our shin box angle. So as I move into my shin box, I'm letting that back leg slide open a little bit more. As I come back up, I can let it slide in, and then I'm reaching into my V-sit back to the other side. Let that back leg slide open. All these little changes in our position are going to elicit some different levels of feedback in the joints. You might notice like, oh, that left hip, when it's open back here, and it's got a little tug to it that I don't feel on the right hip. When I get into that same position, the right hip feels pretty easy and free. Or something I'm actually noticing is as you're moving through these V-sits, I have a little sensitivity in the medial point in my right knee that is not usually there, which tells me that I may have to work a little bit more on my foot and getting into that glute, which is a good thing. That's what we're actually working on today. So we're going to do a few more back and forth. We're continuing to open up that back leg more and more. So it's looking closer and closer to our yoga class pigeon pose. And as I'm getting into the glutes more, I'm noticing that sensitivity in the knee is going away. Especially in that right hip. Oh, that side feels good. And seems to be helping that knee feel a lot better as well. So I think I just had some tightness in that right hip. All right. So now we're going to get onto our back. I want to do a little bit of glute activation. So this is our single leg glute activation. I'm starting with my feet together, legs straight, and then I'm going to bend one knee, bringing one foot flat to the floor. Then I want to move that foot out and away so it comes to about 45 degrees from the midline of the body. I want that foot flat. Heel, ball of the big toe, ball of the pinky toe, even grounding into the floor. We're going to come back into our crocodile breath, and we're focusing on pelvic tilts just on this side of the knee that is up, similar to what we did on the chair when we worked one side at a time. So focus on the belly button to start with. Inhale, that belly lifts up towards the ceiling and it's pulling our low back off the floor. Exhale, Imagine that belly button is like your thumb, and it's pushing straight down into the floor, trying to push that low back of the vertebrae down into the floor. As that happens, we're lightly scooping with that exhale. Inhale, belly lifts. Exhale, feel that spine flatten. Light scoop. I want the pelvis kind of staying on the floor, but feel it scoop towards the ceiling. As it scoops, do you notice a little bit more grounding in the foot? The hip's not moving up to the ceiling, but just that scoop. Can you feel a little bit more pressure downward through the foot? I want to make sure that we're feeling that. Now, as we inhale and exhale, we can start to peel that sacrum off the floor a little bit. Exhale, let it start to lift. As it's lifting, again, we're feeling that push through that foot. I want you to check into the opposite leg. The opposite leg should be completely relaxed. I don't want to be pushing through that opposite heel to where the other side hip is trying to lift off the ground. You can even put your hand on your glute of the opposite hip. It should be flaccid, not tense. If you feel it tensing up, see if you can get it to let go and relax. All the effort should just be coming through one side of the body. As we're getting scooping, we're scooping higher and higher with each one. I want to start to move into that light stretch on the front of the hip. Inhale as we let it all the way back down. Exhale, feel that stretch. The more you start to move into that light stretch on the front of the hip, you should notice the glute starting to contract a little bit. This is where we want that tension, is on the knee side of the knee up. Opposite side is completely soft. And if you're feeling that stretch with glute, I want to maximize moving into that stretch as much as we can without going into pain. I want to feel as much of that contraction in the glute as we can get. I want to start to feel that muscle get a little fatigued and get a little burn. We're doing about 20 reps here. I really want to get some good activation through that foot. Once we get about 20 reps, we're going to bring that foot, straighten that leg, bring our feet together, bending the other knee, bringing that foot flat to the floor, and then moving it out to about 45 degrees from the midline of the body. Doing the exact same thing. Breathing into that belly, feel that belly button lift from the floor. Exhale, the belly button is a thumb, pressing the spine down, and we're lightly scooping that tailbone, but without lifting it off the floor. Feel that foot get a little bit more grounding. Then inhale, belly lifts up. Exhale, thumb presses the spine, light scoop. Feel that foot get taut, a little bit more taut to the floor. As we're feeling that scoop action, we can start to continue to scoop and get it to lift off the floor. Again, check in with that opposite leg. Make sure that it is not actively pushing down. This opposite hip should be on the ground, completely relaxed, completely soft. If you put your hand on that glute, you should be able to squeeze that muscle and it's not tensing up in your hand. And if you feel it tense, let it go. Let all the energy and activation out of that leg. We are only working one side. As we're getting that scoop a little bit higher and a little bit higher, we're starting to feel into that light stretch front of the hip. Inhale all the way down. As you're feeling that light stretch, start to move into it, scoop, actively scoop into it more and more. So you feel that glute starting to contract more and more. And at this point, I want to move maximally into that stretch without pain, feeling that maximum contraction. Again, this is good 20 reps I want to feel some fatigue and burn in the glutes. Check in with that foot, make sure it is remaining flat and grounded. Tripod, I want to keep the ball of the big toe, ball of the pinky toe, and heel all engaged with the floor, which means that knee really should be remaining directly over the ankle. If that knee is turning in, it's going to pick your pinky toe off the floor a little bit. If it turns out, it's going to pick up the big toe. So it should be directly over the ankle as you're actively scooping into it. Once you get a good 20 reps, feeling some good burn, we're very slowly going to come up to a sit, and then we're going to come up to a stand. But since we've spent a good amount of time on our floor with some breath work, we want to take our time. Make sure that you are not dizzy or lightheaded before you come all the way up into a standing position. And now we're going to get into our ligament stability work. These are parts of our 6 walks. We're not going to do all the 6 walks. We're just going to work on 2 or 3 positions. So first one is I'm going to bring my foot out to the side, slightly in front. So out to the side, slightly in front, and I'm only placing the ball of the foot and the big toe. I have the outside edge of the foot off the floor, heel is off the floor. So with that foot, it's on the floor. I'm going to lightly shift weight onto that ball of the foot, allowing that knee to lightly track in, and then I'm shifting my weight off by pushing through the ball of the foot. So I want to absorb my weight into the ball of the foot, and then I want to release, pushing it off. I want to make sure that this feels safe and not that I'm not unbalanced. If you do feel like stability is an issue and that you might lose balance, it's okay to use a staff or to have a chair or to have a couch or counter in order to give you a little bit more stability for these movements. If you feel pretty solid on this and you can go to that next level, I want to start to think like a spring where we can let that foot actually push off the floor, absorb on the step, and release all the way off. Knee is still tracking in. I want to make sure that this is not painful. Once we get about 10 reps on this side, we're going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. So foot comes out to the side, lightly forward, just the ball of the big toe and the big toe touching heel and outside of the foot are off the floor. Knee tracks in as we shift our weight into that foot, pushing off, shifting our weight back. Notice, how does your body absorb that shift? Is it different on this side compared to the other side? My big toe on this foot feels stiffer. And it's really the joint, the knuckle of the big toe. And it really feel it more moving into the arch of the foot. So it's the big toe is tight related to the big toe joint, and the big toe joint is tight related to the medial arch moving towards the heel. If this is feeling all right, we can get into that load and unload. Again, like a spring, feel that spring absorb your energy and then release, and that foot can lightly pop off the floor. We're now going to shift to the other side again. So now instead of out, I'm bringing my foot more straight in front. We're rolling to the outside edge ball of the foot. Heel is off the floor. Big toe joint is off the floor on the inside. We're going to do the same shift forward. And as I shift forward, the knee is lightly tracking out and then pushing off to shift weight back. Feel that weight shift forward and then push to shift back. And if that feels okay, we can let that foot start to come off the floor on the push and then absorb like a spring, release like a spring. Your knee tracks in, tracks out. And I want to feel that comfort of that load just into the forefoot, outside forefoot. And once we get 10 reps, we'll switch back to the other foot. Foot comes forward, rolling it so that we're on the front ball of the outside edge of the foot. Big toe is off the floor, heel is off the floor. Knee tracks lightly out, shifting weight back. Absorb that load moving forward, push off to move that, shift that load back. Notice if it feels different on this side compared to the other side. This is where I feel a lot more stiffness to the outside edge of my foot. This is where my left foot and hip are tighter and more restricted. This is where I hold a lot of compensation tension because my right knee is so unstable. My left foot and hip tend to be tighter. If you're able to do this and get into that spring, load and unload, your knee is lightly tracking out. And if this does feel more challenging, like I just feel a little weaker when that foot hits the ground on this side. So this is a load pattern that I do a lot of because it tells me my neurology is not as strong on this leg as it is on the other leg. All right, we're going to come back to our other foot, bringing that foot forward again. Now we're going to roll to the outside edge of the foot. So not just the ball of the foot, the heel can be on the ground. We're going to roll all the way to that outside edge, and then we're going to roll right back out. And as I'm rolling, I'm not shifting my weight onto it just yet. First thing I want to do is just light roll. And let me go ahead and grab the staff on this one. So if ankles feel vulnerable, have something for some extra balance and support. We're rolling to that outside edge, feel the knee lightly track out, and then roll it all the way back into the big toe. If you deal with ankle rolls, if you roll your ankle on occasion, walking on a trail and it just goes out on you, those ligaments have lost some of their dynamic stability. We need to put a little bit of stress in them to get that kind of dynamic spring back into them. So I want to actually load into it, but we have to be cautious not to overload it. I don't want to injure it. So it's kind of finding where can you control it, adding a little bit of load and then unload. We'll go ahead and switch to the other side, doing the same thing. Rolling that foot to the outside edge, light shift or not shifting weight to start with. We're just roll, feel that roll, moving it back in. Just placing that load into that roll is a good place to start if the foot feels unstable. If the feet feel relatively stable on this, I'm going to move it back to the other side. Then we can start to shift weight and push off, getting into spring and release of that spring. Loading in, knee is tracking out, unloading, popping that foot off the floor. And the more we're able to dynamically get into this action without that ankle feeling vulnerable, that we're going to build up that ankle stability to make those ankles a lot stronger. Just as a little personal, I used to have severe weak ankles, sprained both ankles multiple times playing in my basketball career. And I would go running on the hike and bike trail and my foot would just roll to where I would literally be running on the outside of my ankle. I got introduced to these kind of concepts, and within months, I can't remember. I mean, it's been a decade since I've had an ankle roll like that. So they just went away altogether. All right, last thing we're going to work on is a little bit of balance and stability. I want to load into our clock. I'm going to keep my staff. So again, if balance is an issue, we can have the staff, and we'll use the staff as much as we need to. If you need it with both hands, we'll start with both hands. Eventually we'll get to one hand. We'll try to get to where we just have our hand on the top. Maybe we'll get to where we're just using a finger, and then we can get to where we release the staff altogether. Biggest focus here is on the feet. Spread the toes, ground the foot. I want a good tripod, ball of the big toe, ball of the pinky toe, and heel. And I want to maintain that tripod. That is the most important thing. We're going to come into a single leg stance. And if you're finding that ankle rolls back and forth, that means you're going from bipod to bipod. You're not able to maintain a tripod. That's where I want you to have a staff or something solid to help with a little bit more stability. So once we have that tripod, now we can start to play with the idea that we're standing on the face of a clock. And we're going to explore all the numbers of the clock. But again, my foot being solid to the floor is what's most important. I need to move all the way out without losing my tripod and bring it all the way back into tall without losing my tripod. If I go here and I lose my tripod, it means I'm reaching too far. So I can only move as far as I can control at the level of the foot. And we're playing with all the angles of the clock that we can reach to. As we reach back, I want to start to let that hip open up a little bit, making sure it's not stressful on the knee. As we're moving into this backspace, I'm reaching out through the side so I can feel that stretch, that load into the glute. In fact, the more you're able to extend the knee and point the toes, the more you're going to feel that tension in the hip. And that's really for all of these angles. Extend the knee, point the toe, that hip is going to get more active. And we'll spend like a minute on this side. Then we're going to switch. Same thing on the other side. Spread the toes, find balance first, make sure that we're good and stable. And then we can start to explore all the numbers on the clock. Notice if one foot feels more or less stable than the other foot. It might be that you feel it at the foot, you might feel it at the knee. Maybe that knee's real shaky, maybe it's the hip. But if you feel less stable on one foot than the other foot, what does that mean about gait? When you're walking, you're on one foot at a time. If one foot is more stable than the other, then the other foot is a fall risk. It means we want to build this back up. We want to make this better on both sides in order to reduce those fall risks. My right side feels a little shakier, which might be the reason my left side is so tight all the time. All right, once we get a minute on that side, always encourage actually doing another round of those. We're going to come back and finish with our crocodile breath. Making big C shapes, thumbs in the low back, index fingers around the front. Again, pressing in, assessing symmetry. And since we've gotten a decent amount of work, I want to see if we got a little bit more expansion to breath that we did at the beginning of the session. So let's get a good 5 up to 10 nice slow inhales and exhales. As you inhale, if you notice tension moving up into the shoulders, as you exhale, just allow the tension to go. Don't push the shoulders down. Don't actively release the tension. Releasing tension is not an active thing. It's like literally just let it rinse off, let it get flushed, whatever metaphor works for you. I don't want to hold it in the shoulders and the neck. I want to feel it drop. And I'd say after 5 breaths, we can go ahead and just let those arms relax down. Continue to fill up that crocodile breath. We can now start to allow that breath to move up into the ribs, chest, upper back, neck, and shoulders. Same concept. Feel that breath moving out in all directions, upper back, side body, top. Exhale, any tension you feel, start to feel that tension just melt off the body. And when you're ready, be ready to move on and face your day.